This is Russell Oakes. I'm the Customer Services Manager at Box Telematics, and I'm going to take you through some of the aspects of SPOTON tracking software. This video is primarily about the Geo-fence section of SPOTON. Going from the main screen where you log in, you'll see there's a Geo-fence section at the top. If you click on that, it will change the screen to this one. So, not so much on the left-hand side on this one, but the mapping, etc. are the same kind of information. The first thing you'll see is vehicles on site. Now this will actually show you, if you've got geofences configured, which I'll show you in a second, it will show you which vehicles are currently at one of your defined geofences. In this case, only one at the moment. So you get an idea. If you've got different customer sites, you can tell which vehicles are at customer sites at the moment. If I click on geofences on the left here, what we'll get is a list of all of the currently defined geofences. We've got 64 on here at the moment. There's no limit as to the amount of geofences you can have. We've got people with thousands and thousands, so don't worry too much about that. But it just lists them all. This information, I'll show you exactly how we gain this from creating one in a second. So if we right click and then select add, we'll be able to add a geofence. Now it'll center down on where the map is at the moment, but if you wanted to add a geofence at a different location, so we'll go for there, you can type in the postcode, select locate postcode, it'll jump the map to where that is. You can then right click, set geofence position, and you can get started on shaping your geofence. So the general gist of geofences is if your vehicle enters the boundary that you're about to set, then it will show on the system as being at that location. So if we call this test 1, then whenever the vehicle's in this area, it would show up as being at test 1 rather than just the address, and you need to work out whose address that is and things like that. So you've got customer sites, things like that, you can add them on, and they're a bit more easy to reference on the reports. So you can see that you start off with a circular geofence. You've got some options here to change that though. So if we're to select a category, you can add different categories. We've got quite a few on here just as examples, but you can add different ones. If we say that's a driver's home, so then you can group them together, and this is where we can change the shape. So by default it's a circle. You can just drag it to whatever shape you like, or you can change it by just typing in a number here. Sorry, pressing enter does actually create the geofence. I shouldn't have done that then, but you can just enter it there. So if we change it to 600, there we go. We can change the shape, so you can select a rectangle. Again, obviously dragging it is the easiest way to do things. So you can have a couple of different shapes. Then the interesting one is the polygon. Now the polygon will start off as whatever shape you had it previously, but it gives you the ability to customize the boundaries, so you can actually pull it into any shape you like. So if you want to specify the boundaries of one particular site, rather than having an all-encompassing circle that covers the entire area, you can have it just so it covers the individual site itself. So it gives you a level of customization which you wouldn't be able to get from any of the other shapes. One note with the polygon one, as it does say down here, the total number of polygon geofences you may create is limited to 100. So you can only create 100 polygon geofences. While there is no limit on the number of geofences you can create in total, only 100 of those can be polygons because they take up a lot of system resources for us to have them on there. And then you can fill in the other information about that geofence, the full address, things like that, if you need to add it. So we'll cancel that. Okay, so that's how you create a geofence from this section down here. There's other ways to do it as well. You can actually, if for some reason you're on a separate part of the map over here, you can just right click and do add geofence, and then it'll start that whole process again from that point on the map. Same information at the bottom, but it's various ways of getting to the same screen. Alternatively, if you've got a vehicle which is currently at a location and you know that that's somewhere where you want to keep a note of, and for future reference, so it's easier to see, there's a few different ways you can do it from here. You can do right click, configure, add geofence, or from up here, add geofence. So there's various different places you can click on screen, and you'll see the option to add a geofence at that location. Going back to the Geofences management screen, you've got details here on the left hand side, so that'll actually just give you details about that geofence. If you've got vehicles there, it'll tell you which ones are actually out there at the time. You've got the categories, which is where you can manage what you want the different categories to be, so you can just add a new one, give it a name, the type, things like that. And here we've got a report. Now this report, which isn't on any of the other screens, is only on the Geofence screen, but it gives you a report of which vehicles have been to that particular geofence and when. So if I was to select the box offices, which are on here somewhere, you can sort it by name, box office, and then run a visits report. Okay, here we go. So there have been 17 visits to boxes offices. And you can see here the asset, which is the registration. Now, as I said, we've got all these IMEIs from the mobile phones we've got set up, but you've got the vehicles down here as well. So you can see when they arrived at the site, when they left it, how long they were there. The stopped column actually defines whether or not they turned off the ignition. So if they didn't turn off the ignition, as in they just drove through it or just past that location without stopping there and turning off their ignition, then it won't show up on here by default. Default, it just shows ones where you did actually stop at that location. There's an option at the top to include drive-throughs, and then it will include when people went past that location. So you can see the no's on here then, so that's when they entered the geofence but didn't actually stop within it. Turn that off again. And that's it for the Geofences visits, and pretty much for the Geofences section. It's a very, very useful tool, very, very simple to use, but it gives you the ability to make it easier to see where your vehicles are. If you've got, as I say, if you've got a set of customer addresses, depots, things like that, you can add them all on there as Geofences. Then it will show up as that customer name on reports, rather than just the address. So you have to remember what the addresses are of all these people's places. Just add them as Geofences, then it'll just say their names instead, so it's a lot easier to use. The next section I'm going to cover is the alerts. Should be a quick one. Otherwise, yep, that's it. Thanks for watching.